Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you 4 different ways that you can start to approach jazz improvisation. This is for you if you are brand new to improvisation or if you're somebody who feels stuck or overwhelmed with your current approaches to improvising. It's very common in the world of jazz and improvisation to be overwhelmed with lots of different choices because there's just so much information out there and there really are many different ways to do this. So stick around if this is for you. My name is Michael. I'm a saxophone player and improvisation coach. I help musicians become more confident improvisers. And if you're a saxophone player specifically, you can check out one of the links below to see what it would look like for me to make you a custom practice roadmap. So let's dive in. I'm excited to show you these 4 different ways to approach improvisation. And I'm going to use the tune Autumn Leaves for most of these examples here. So here's a lead sheet I made for Autumn Leaves. This is in the key of concert G major or concert E minor, depending on if you like to think of this tune in major or minor. I do prefer to think of it in a minor key. So I'm playing alto saxophone today. Notice that I wrote this without a key signature, but I am in the key of C sharp minor or E major for me on alto saxophone. So way number 1 to approach improvising on a jazz tune like this is to embellish the melody. There are 2 ways that you can go about embellishing the melody. The first is rhythmically, so only playing the notes that are written on the page, but taking a lot of rhythmic liberties and adding rhythm to what's on the page. Number 2 is to embellish with other notes. So I'm going to show you way number 1 first, how I would start making this melody sound more interesting, sound like jazz, almost sound like I'm improvising the melody. This is absolutely the best way to start improvising on a new tune that you just learned. You've listened to it a few times, you've played the melody, maybe learned the melody by ear or with the help of a lead sheet. This is the best way to feel like you're improvising on a tune right away, by just experimenting with the melody in an interesting rhythmic way. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice that the only other notes that I played besides the ones that are written on the page were the lower octave versions of some of these long notes here. I like to do that. It works well for me. You might like to do that in a different way than I did, and that's okay. Again, this is just a way to make it feel like you're improvising right away when you're learning a new tune. So again, that example was just using rhythm. Here's an example where I'm just kind of going where my ear takes me and playing some different notes around this melody. So now I'm going to embellish this melody with just a couple different notes here and there. A couple of tips here is that this works really well on the long notes when you have more space, and you're still going to want to play with your best metronomic time. Also, one more tip is to remember what key you're in. So we're in the key of, if you're playing alto saxophone like me, E major or C sharp minor. Those share a key signature, 4 sharps. So that can kind of help guide your ear and your note choices. But again, I don't want you to overthink the notes. I just want you to play what you hear around the melody. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm still playing the melody, really close to the melody, Just on these long notes when I have more space, I'm just going with where my ear takes me. I'm not overthinking the notes. I'm not thinking too hard about scales or chord changes yet. I'm really just trying to listen to where the music wants to go, okay? I am thinking about the key, but that's all you really need to know to start embellishing with your ear. And I'm just using examples here of the first 8 bars of the tune for time's sake, but I could do either of these things on the entire 32 bar tune. So be sure to do that in your own practice. Also use a metronome or a play along as you see fit. Okay, so way number 2 to start improvising on a tune like this is to take a rhythmic solo just using the roots of the chords. I call this being the bass player. It's really effective. I always think that the bass player is the person in the band who knows the tune the best. They at least know the form of the tune the best, and knowing that is really going to help you as a soloist. So this won't be the most exciting thing in the world, but if you're feeling stuck or just new to improvisation, it is a really effective thing to do. So here's what I mean by taking a rhythmic solo just using the roots of the chords. I'm literally just going to play the notes written above each measure. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. You'll notice that I added just a couple extra notes at the end here, but other than that, I was just playing rhythms on the roots of the chords. Using a metronome or a play along here is great to keep you honest with your time. Listen to other bass players for inspiration here. When most horn players, especially saxophone players, are listening to a tune, I feel like they're listening to the other horn players. But if you listen to a different instrument, that can totally change your perspective and give you new ideas for how to approach the tune itself. So that is way number 2 to approach improvising on a new tune, is to play rhythms on the roots of the chords. Way number 3 is to take what I call a chord tone solo. So if you're familiar with outlining harmony on your instrument, F sharp minor 7 means F sharp A, C sharp E. B dominant 7 means B, D sharp, F sharp, A. If you're familiar with all of that, then try to take a solo just using the notes in the chords. Don't think about scales at all. Don't think about any other notes outside of that. This is harder than you might think, even if you've practiced your chords a lot, because it's really easy, especially for saxophonists, I feel, to want to run scales up and down. So this is going to give you a really specific sounding solo. It's going to give you some specific shapes here. Here's an example of that. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So that one requires a little bit more thinking, a little bit more knowledge of what's going on here in the chords. If you're not there yet, that's totally okay. I actually have a chord symbol cheat sheet that goes with the custom routine. So click that link below and you can find a couple different ways to get more familiar with these chords. And finally, way number 4 to approach improvisation on a jazz tune like this is to think a little bit more about scales. So I save this for number 4 because you can do a lot before ever thinking about scales. And we can think about really specific scales that you're probably already familiar with. These first 4 bars here are all coming from the key of E. For me on alto saxophone, concert G. So over all of these chords, I can think modally in my key of E. For these 4 measures, these 3 chords down here, I can think about a couple different ways to approach my C sharp minor. I can use the melodic minor or harmonic minor scale. So this is why major and minor scales are so important. You don't need fancy jazz scales, whatever those are, like blues scales, pentatonic scales. I think that's what people mean when they say jazz scales. You don't necessarily need those right away. You can just stick with your major and minor scales. That's why those are so important to practice first. So I'm actually going to kind of go back to the melody here, and then I'm going to embellish the melody with scales. Here's what I mean. So that's the clearest example I can give of how to connect this melody and connect these chords with the use of some major and minor scales. So just to review, the 4 ways to approach improvisation if you feel like you don't know where to start, or if you feel stuck or lost in your current methods. Way number 1 is to embellish, and within that category you can embellish just rhythmically, or you can embellish melodically as well. Way number 2 is to take a solo just using the roots of the chords, which means the notes written above each measure. Way number 3 is to take what I call a chord tone solo, meaning you're just playing the notes in each of these chords. And way number 4 is to use some simple major and minor scales to navigate over multiple keys at once. I hope this was helpful. I hope this gave you some ways to approach improvisation if you're new or feeling lost or stuck. Please like and subscribe if this was helpful to you. And again, check out the links below to see how I can do things like make you a custom practice routine if you're a saxophone player, or give you some more information when it comes to learning tunes, practicing chord changes, studying jazz in general. I have lots of ways to do that. So thanks for watching and happy practicing. See you next time.